Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. In today's video, we're just going to be making some really delicious chicken recipes. I think we had some pretty good meals this week, so I'm really excited to share them with you. But let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you how to make them. First up today, we're going to make a garlic parmesan chicken and potato dish. To begin, I'm just going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 400 degrees, and then over here to my cutting board I have a baking sheet laid out along with 1.5 pounds of baby red potatoes. With the potatoes, I'm just going to quarter them, and if they're a little larger then I'll cut them into 6 pieces, but you want them to all be right around the same size. Once those are all on your pan, now you're going to add about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil or olive oil. To season these potatoes, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of my favorite all-purpose seasoning, which I will have linked down below for you, and then about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Now I'm just going to get in here with my hands. It's just a lot easier to make sure the potatoes get covered with the oil and all of the seasonings and just get it all mixed together really well. Then you'll need to spread it out evenly across your baking sheet. Add this into your oven, and this is going to bake for about 20 minutes to start. Then you will just kind of mix them around a little bit and then add them back into the oven for another 15 minutes until they are fork tender. Moving on to my chicken, I have 1.5 chicken breasts here that I just kind of sliced nice and thin. I'm just going to take the same seasonings I used on the potatoes, the paprika, the all-purpose seasoning, and the pepper, and just add it right onto both sides of the chicken. Over here to my stove, I have 1 tablespoon of butter that I melted in this skillet with just a little bit of avocado oil as well. I'm going to add my chicken in here and let this chicken cook for about 3 to 4 minutes per side until the internal temperature is reaching about 165 degrees. As the chicken is finishing cooking, I'm going to go ahead and remove it over to my cutting board just so it can rest for a few minutes. We're going to keep using this same skillet though, since it has a lot of flavor in it, and just add 1 teaspoon of minced garlic in here. Let that garlic cook for about 30 seconds to a minute until you can smell the garlic nice and strong. About this time, your potatoes should be finishing up, so you can go ahead and just add all of those potatoes into the skillet. I gave that a little mix to help make sure the garlic wasn't going to burn, and then I also chopped up my chicken into bite-sized pieces, added that in, with about 1/2 cup of this garlic parmesan sauce. Once that's all in the skillet, go ahead and give that a really good mix together. And now we're going to go ahead and add about a 1/2 cup to 1 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, and then also just a little sprinkle of Parmesan cheese as well. Now go ahead and add this into the oven for about 5 minutes, just long enough to heat the sauce through and melt the cheese over the top. Here's what it looked like on my plate when it was all done. I did go ahead and just steam up some broccoli florets to have with this on the side. We both really love this dinner. The only thing I would say is next time I would add just a little bit more of that sauce, just because we like it to be a little bit more saucy. But that is a total preference thing, so if you do want to do that you can, if you don't then don't. But the sauce is also really good on the broccoli. Next up, we're going to make another variation of enchilada casserole. You will need to go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Then to begin, I am just chopping up 1/2 of a yellow onion, and I'm going to make sure to chop that up pretty fine. Over here onto my stovetop, I have a small pan. I'm just going to go ahead and add about 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil, or you can use avocado oil, whichever you prefer. Let that heat up, and then you're going to add your onion in there. For the onion, you'll just want to let it cook for about 7 to 8 minutes until it's nice and tender and getting some color to it. Once the onion is done, you're going to go ahead and add your seasonings in. So I'm adding 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1.5 teaspoons of cumin, a half teaspoon of salt, along with 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. Stir this around and let this cook for another 30 seconds. At this point, then you'll add in 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. Stir that flour around in there really good, really mashing it into all of the seasonings. You want the flour to absorb any liquid that is left in the pan, and then you just need to give that about a minute or 2 to let the flour itself cook. Slowly, I'm going to begin adding 1 cup of chicken broth in here. Add just a little bit at a time, making sure to mix really well between each addition. After that has thickened up a bit, then you can add in 1 full can, which I believe is 15 ounces of tomato sauce. Give this a really good stir, give it a minute to heat up, and then you're just going to go ahead and turn the heat off and let it sit there till we're ready to use it. Before starting this sauce, I did go ahead and bake up 2 chicken breasts. I seasoned them with just a little bit of salt and pepper and cooked them in the oven for about 20 minutes until they were cooked all the way through. At that point, then I just shredded them up, and that's what you're seeing here. I am going to go ahead and add all of that chicken into a nice big bowl. Along with the chicken, you're going to need 1 cup of frozen corn, 1 can of drained and rinsed black beans, 1 can of green chilies, along with about half a cup of the homemade enchilada sauce, and a half teaspoon of salt. Once everything is in the bowl, go ahead and just give this a really good mix together and set it aside. Now we're going to start building the casserole. So I do have a pan here that's about equivalent to a 9x13 casserole dish. You'll just add a little bit of sauce into the very bottom of your pan. It doesn't have to be much, you just want to make sure you can cover the whole bottom of the pan. On top of the sauce, you're going to add 4 corn tortillas, and then drizzle just a tad more sauce on top of those tortillas. Next, you'll take half of the chicken mixture that we made, add that into the pan and spread it around nice and even. On top of that, add about 1 cup to 1.5 cups of some Mexican style cheese. I believe this is the Fiesta one that you can get at Walmart. And then you're just basically going to repeat what you just did. So here I'm adding 4 more corn tortillas, drizzling a little bit more of the red enchilada sauce over the top. Then add the rest of your chicken mixture, except this time over the top of that you're going to add the rest of your red enchilada sauce. Spread it out evenly over the top and then top it with another 1 cup to 1.5 cups of Mexican cheese. I stuck this in my oven and let this go for about 30 minutes. Once the cheese is done and the edges are bubbling like this, it should be ready to go. Here's what my bowl looked like in the end. Over the top, as you can see, I did add some sour cream on there, along with a little bit of hot sauce because I like everything to be spicy. This is probably one of my favorite enchilada casserole recipes I've tried to date. I feel like I'm always making this and just looking for a better recipe each time. I will have this original recipe linked down below for you because it was really, really good. And finally, we were really excited about this dinner on this night. We're going to make a blackened chicken with a homemade Alfredo. Over to the side there, I have 1.5 chicken breasts laid out ready to go. But first we need to make this seasoning over here. So into this little bowl, I'm adding 1 tablespoon of cayenne pepper, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of dried thyme, and a half teaspoon of oregano. Go ahead and give that a really good mix together, and now we're going to sprinkle most of the seasoning onto the chicken, but you do want to reserve about 3 teaspoons. Moving over here to my big skillet, I'm going to go ahead and add about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. Once that is nice and hot, then add the chicken in there and let that cook for about 3 to 4 minutes per side until it's reaching 165 degrees. It is normal for this recipe, the seasoning on the chicken, to get very dark like this. I promise you it is not burnt, so don't worry about that. Once the chicken was all done, I went ahead and just removed it over to my cutting board to rest for a few minutes. The recipe I was using did call for an entire stick of butter. I was a little short on that, so I ended up adding about 4 tablespoons. Give that butter a minute to melt and get nice and hot, and at that point I added a nice big heaping tablespoon of minced garlic in there. I let that garlic cook in there for about 2 minutes or so, and then I added in 2 cups of heavy cream. You'll also need to go ahead and add in the rest of the seasoning from earlier into the sauce. Once you see your sauce bubbling, then it's time to go ahead and add the Parmesan. You will be needing about 1.5 cups of freshly shredded Parmesan cheese. The recipe did not call for this, but since we are moving soon, I am trying to use up as much as I can here in my fridge and freezer. So I figured, why not? Let's just go ahead and add a little bit of frozen spinach into the sauce. But I just went ahead and finished off the rest of the bag. This was probably a little less than 1/4 of a cup. I just stirred that in and gave it a few minutes to warm up. Now you can go ahead and add your pasta. Any pasta you want to use is fine. I believe I was using some fettuccine noodles. And this is about 16 ounces of pasta. I went ahead and just sliced up my chicken, but you can chop it into smaller pieces or leave it whole, it's totally up to you. To finish this off, I'm just going to sprinkle it with a little bit more Parmesan cheese over the top and a little parsley as well. Here is what my bowl of food ended up looking like in the end. We both loved this chicken so much. If you notice, there was not that much chicken when I added it back into the pasta. That was because me and my husband both kept picking at it because it was just so good. And then eating that chicken with the Alfredo sauce made it even better. So I will have this exact recipe linked down below for you so you can see the original recipe there. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed and found a recipe or two that looks good to you. If you made it all the way to the end of today's video, please don't forget to leave your flower down in the comments below to let me know that you did. And I will be seeing you back here on Wednesday for a new video. Bye!